I'm standing inside Pure Project Brewing in the beautiful city of Vista in San Diego County. Pure Project is a brewery inspired by the tropics and gives as much attention to sustainability and community as well as it does its incredible beer. Pure Project is also known for brewing a wide array of beer styles. However, the challenge these different beers provide is that they all should be served in different glasses and at different temperatures. I'm Jeremy Storton. I'm an advanced Cicerone and the host of the Good Beer Matters podcast. I've partnered with Brewery DB to bring you Trusted BrewKnowledge. Trusted BrewKnowledge is a series of videos to help you better understand beer and what to make of it. Today we're going to talk about the ideal glassware and serving temperature for different styles of beers, and we're also going to talk about why this matters.
My name is Chris Guzman. I'm the Education Program Manager. Started Chris.thebeereducator on Instagram, and a little bit by little bit, people of industry or beer enthusiasts can just have a little bit more of a deep dive on the world of beer. Yeah, I'm an advanced Cicerone, currently studying for my Master's Cicerone.
Yes,
got the
you
cool
are.
little patch right there.
Okay, so at some point, we're going to go from our lighter beers that should be served in those tall, skinny glasses, ideally, so we can see the color, prop up that foam, and enjoy those beers. But we're going to talk about ambers, browns, doppelbocks, even like Flanders style. I mean, so what happens to our glassware and our serving temp when we get to that point?
Absolutely. So in terms of serving temperature, it should, so like your light ales, light lagers, pale lagers specifically, they should be between 35, almost up to 40 degrees. But what does that mean? No one's really walking around with a thermostat. Cold to the touch, sounds refreshing.
Yep.
I'm gonna have a glass of that.
Yep.
When you start showcasing off malt complexity, maybe some ester production
Yes.
from the yeast, you're like, what else does that have underneath that first layer? So little bit warmer. I mean, slightly, just a touch, not as cold. And you're like, let me find out.
Should these beers still come out at that 38 degrees right from the fridge?
They always will, and it's up to the consumer to prolong that experience with your light lagers, your pale ale, or light ales, I should say. You can have that experience of drinking it quickly. With this, there's a lot more flavor in them, so it makes you slow down. So even though you took it out of the fridge, crack it open, pour it out, you're like, wow, that right there, that's a beautiful color. Beautiful copper color.
Yep. Yep.
A little bit almost like a light beige, wet sand head to it. Hey, you know what? I'm gonna take a sip. Whoa, that's a lot more flavor. I'm gonna take my time with it, and then it'll gradually warm up, and you're like, whoa, did you pick up that biscuity characteristic?
Yep.
This is really good. Let me try it one more time. Oh, now like almost like a red fruit characteristic is coming off, the yeast is coming out. So like those beers will gradually get warmer just because the intensity will make you slow down when you're drinking them.
Yeah, but you don't have to be prepping for your Master Cicerone test to appreciate this.
Exactly.
It really what this comes down to is I like to think of it as I want to give power to the people. If you like your beer super cold, if you like putting ice cubes in your wine, then you rock with your ice cubes in your wine.
By all means.
If you like it, drink it that way.
Yeah.
But just know that your wine will change, your beer will change, and when you understand that, then you can be in control of that change, and in very much a good way. And for me, if I'm drinking something like this pale ale, I may want it colder. If I just got done mowing the lawn or body surfing, then I want to drink a nice cold beer.
Yeah.
But with this one, I may want to either drink it light, hold the glass with my fingertips and let it stay cold, or I may want to warm it up with my hand and see how the flavors change.
Exactly.
And see how the experience changes, because it always will change, preferably for the better.
And that comes from the beer tenders allowing that discussion, and use it almost as a, hey, you should do this, kind of like what we were mentioning. If you want ice in your wine, by all means, boo-boo. But toss in that little like nugget, and like when you're curating that flight, and right now, of course, it's out of order, but when you're curating that flight and say, hey, let that American pub ale warm up just a little bit more, you get that malt experience.
Yeah.
And they're just like, malt experience on that pub ale? Okay, cool, heard. So I'm gonna really enjoy the first couple, and then I'm gonna try it. I might jump back, see how it warmed up, and you're like, oh, that's what they were saying. So as a beer tender, as a restaurateur, you can curate those lineups and just add little Easter eggs and say, hey, Wait until you try that part. Let that Imperial Stout open up just a little bit more, and you'll be pleasantly surprised. The flavor does change. And for a lot of people, they don't understand that flavor is indicative with temperature.
Yes.
And that's a new concept.
Yes.
And that's totally fine. Same thing with coffee, same thing with beer, same thing with food.
Yeah.
Just knowing like, hey, flavor and temperature.
And that's perfect because we've all had hot pizza, we've all had cold pizza. We love them both, but they're very different.
They're very different.
And just understanding how temperature can affect your experience and finding that sweet spot for that particular beer that you have.
For you.
For me.
For that particular beer.
And understanding that I have a preference. I don't have to understand the preference. I just have to know if I like it and if I don't.
Yeah.
And then be mindful where that is and try and hit that every time.
Yeah. And that's the cool part because almost across the board, you might see some tendencies. A lot of people do like them a little bit warmer than your pale, your light lager, or your light ale. And you're just like, oh, there is a tendency. But if I like it at that temperature, cool, I'm going to enjoy that temperature.
Now, generally speaking, just as a kind of throw it a rule of thumb, if we want this pale ale or pale lagers to be 35 to 40 degrees, where would we start putting darker amber and brown and red beers, just as a general rule of thumb?
So you want to go a little bit warmer, possibly like 40 to 45 degrees. You're releasing a lot more aromatics out there, and you're smelling and perceiving a lot more. The malt is expressing itself.
Yeah.
So I would just go a little bit warmer. You have the cold, lightly cold, and then you could change up the dynamics from the other beers. But yeah, I'd go like slightly chilled.
Yeah, perfect.